Young lives is very interesting because we normally assume that, or we normally know from the evidence that children's growth, linear growth, that's to say how tall they grow in the first 2 years of life, is very important in determining what the child will be like, what are the child's opportunities in terms of education, their development, things in the future. And then we think that after that, there's very little chance of recovering. So the child who's stunted is really destined to be stunted for the rest of their life and they're at a disadvantage. So when we looked at the round 2 data, we expected that because some of the children had been 6 months when they were enrolled, and some of them had been 18 months, the 6-month children, at the beginning of their 2-year period, we would expect them to have more growth retardation, and so that the number of children, the percentage of children who were stunted in the second round should have been higher, and we found that it wasn't all that much higher, and that was surprising in all the countries, and that was surprising. So we went back to the data in Peru, and we found that actually there were children who were, we looked at the round 3 data, and we found that there were children who had actually recovered to a certain extent, not completely, but they were not as stunted, to say not as low a height for their age. So they had recovered, and that was interesting. So we also found that those children had also, to a certain extent, closed the gap a bit in terms of cognitive development. So now we've gone back, and this is the more recent part, we've gone back and looked at the data across all the countries and found that there is a certain amount of movement, more than we had thought before. And some children are not following their growth trajectory, they are actually improving during their school years, and this is associated with a better cognitive development than the children who have remained stunted. So although we still think that it's better to prevent, and we still think that it's right to concentrate and prioritise the first 2 years of life, it is interesting to know that maybe it's not all over, and that there is a chance for children to recuperate a little bit at least during their school years.